not wanting Charlie's caricature to survive when the actual Charlie Kirk individual, who Charlie Kirk actually is so much more important. The caricature, the cartoon, is that Charlie's this young, smart guy, made a career out of debating college kids.
What they have told us about Lance Twiggs. Obviously, we're going to go over this indictment. This kind of came up in the umpteenth hour. I'm going to tell you my honest opinion on it. There's more going on here. Very clearly, there's more going on here. So you can join us here at the link.
So Charlie Kirk's death has turned into a full-blown war at this point. And the one person the world thought would be the most broke by it is his wife, is now being considered a suspect. They're saying she might not just be grieving, she might be involved in some way. And the second that detail started circulating, the internet flipped. And when Candace Owens saw it, she didn't hold back. She went nuclear. Now the question isn't just who killed Charlie Kirk. The question is, was the betrayal sitting right next to him the whole time? And before we even get into Candace's wild reaction, let's talk about what actually happened the night Charlie Kirk was unalived. Because the details don't just point to some random shooter, they point inside his own circle. As you guys know, Charlie Kirk was gunned down at a university event. Thousands of people there, chaos everywhere, and the official story was that a 22-year-old man, Tyler Robinson, fired from a rooftop. But here's the part that doesn't add up. The police affidavit shows the shooter had insider-level knowledge. He knew Kirk's speaking schedule, the layout of the tent, even which exit Charlie was supposed to use. That's not something you just guess. That's fed to you. And then there's the fact that this Tyler fired with almost scary accuracy. Many people have seen the video, as horrific and tragic as it is. But the one thing that was clear was that there was no hesitation, no delays or shaking. And that tells you that it wasn't some random guy with an agenda. This was someone who had time to plan, who had the skill to not miss, and who was likely paid enough to make sure he didn't get caught, at least not immediately anyway. Because according to reports, police might not have caught him if his father hadn't turned him in. That's not luck. That's deep, cold calculation, the kind that takes weeks, maybe even months of planning, and the cooperation of certain key people in his life. So, when investigators went digging, it didn't take long for their eyes to land on someone who had constant access, his wife, Erica. Now, in any case where a married person gets unalived, the spouse is usually the prime suspect. That doesn't mean she pulled the trigger. However, whispers have been floating around suggesting that she wasn't blindsided either, and that one suspicion alone turned her from grieving widow to possible co-conspirator. And that's where Candace Owens enters the picture. Because once she saw that narrative forming, she said exactly what a lot of people were thinking, but were too scared to post. But before we get to her rage, let me show you why this wife is already looking shady. See, people dug up clips, family interviews, even her old posts, and suddenly they don't look innocent anymore. Like right before Charlie's death, Erica went radio silent online. For someone who used to post every single detail of their family dinners, that silence stood out. Even weirder, the fact that she seemed to have a speech ready the minute Charlie was confirmed gone. She made a public address during a live stream that left people confused, not because of what she said, but because of what she didn't say. She talked about how much Charlie Kirk loved the country, President Trump, and Vice President J.D. Vance, her and their children. But what really grabbed people's attention was the fact that she didn't say much about who Charlie was to her, the life he lived, or try to honor his memories by making his death about him. Now, people grieve in different ways, and this could just be her own way of keeping her husband's memories alive. But a lot of people also felt like there was something fishy about that response. And Erica basically confirmed this suspicion when she made a follow-up post where she said, "You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just unleashed across this entire country and world." That's when the whispers really kicked into high gear. Suddenly, neighbors were popping up with tales of how the couple used to have long, heated arguments about finances. Some even went as far as talking about a multi-million dollar. Now everybody's connecting the dots. Was this about money? Was she covering tracks? And Candace Owens, who had already been calling out fake conservatives and shady alliances, saw this as proof that the betrayal didn't come from outside. It came from inside Charlie's own home. And she wasn't about to let anyone get away with it. When she finally made her post, it was so raw, it felt like she was grieving and exposing at the same time. Now here's where the whole story turned explosive, because Candace didn't wait for prosecutors. She didn't wait for police statements. She went straight to her socials and started living and reposting some of those comments, suggesting that there was something sinister going on. One of those viral posts said, "If this man's own wife set him up, every single conservative who stayed silent should be ashamed. He didn't get betrayed by politics. He got betrayed by his pillow." That line, "betrayed by his pillow," went viral instantly. Screenshots flooded Twitter, TikTok edits dropped within minutes, and suddenly it wasn't just about Charlie Kirk's murder. It was about whether Candace had just confirmed what everyone suspected. And she wasn't done, because while those comments she was retweeting and liking could be dismissed as conspiracies, nobody could deny the raw grief that poured out of her own tributes to him. She posted a compilation of photos of her and Charlie, and each slide showed two friends growing together, being goofy and supporting each other. And that compilation, it blew up. Not just because Candace Owens has a large following, but because it was the one post from anybody in Charlie Kirk's camp that truly made his death about him and the person he was. Believe it or not, even Charlie's haters admitted that Candace's post made them cry and grieve his loss. And fans didn't miss the fact that this was the kind of post that should have come from his wife, not the essay-like snippet she did. Candace didn't just make posts on Instagram though. She went live and spent half an hour talking about what an amazing person Charlie was outside of his politics. And you could feel the grief pouring out of her throughout. Her eyes were glistening with tears. She was visibly shaken, and it took all her willpower to get through the tribute. That's not just mourning, it's refusing to accept the lies and cover-ups.
Already very difficult for me to do this for a lot of reasons, but I knew it was important because I didn't want the last thing that people had in their minds about Charlie to be the moment he lost his life. That was what was especially hard, because he's just had so many amazing moments throughout his career. And as I was saying, I was having this discussion with George this morning, obviously through a lot of tears, about not wanting Charlie's caricature to survive when the actual Charlie Kirk individual, who Charlie Kirk actually is so much more important. The caricature, the cartoon, is that Charlie is this young, smart guy, made a career out of debating college kids, decided not to go to college, started Turning Point USA. And I think a lot of people thought that Charlie must take himself a bit too seriously. And I want you guys to know that that could not be further from the truth. Charlie and me were always laughing. Yes, he was ambitious. Everybody knows Charlie is ambitious. I met him back in 2017 when Turning Point was this very young organization.
Oh, but Candace didn't end there. The moment the police launched their investigation, she was right there looking into the facts herself. She wanted answers, and she was going to get them. So, when the authorities released the official indictment of Tyler Robinson, she was first on the scene. For those who haven't seen it, the indictment listed 7 charges, including aggravated murder. If he's convicted, he could be facing the death penalty. And according to court records, that is exactly what the prosecution wants. But as much as this is good news for people who want to see Charlie's killer go to jail, Candace had her suspicions. And she wasn't afraid to say what everyone was thinking. Something doesn't add up. She made a post on her Instagram stories that said, "The indictment against the person who murdered Charlie has just been released. And this very much feels to me that we are getting part of the story, but not the full thing." And that post was all it took to spark another wave of speculations about what really happened behind the scenes leading up to Charlie getting unalived. And if you think Candace's rage was just performance, not. Her voice cracked. She slammed her desk. You could feel that this wasn't strategy. This was grief turning into fury.
Okay, so we're receiving so much information. We have the exclusive for you on the mysterious trans boyfriend's family, what they have told us about Lance Twiggs. Obviously, we're going to go over this indictment. This kind of came up in the umpteenth hour. I'm going to tell you my honest opinion on it. there's more going on here. Very clearly, there's more going on here. So you can join us here at the link.
And she didn't just direct it at Charlie's wife. She had smoke for every single person she believed had a hand in his death. Candace knew things about Charlie that other people in his life either didn't know or were too afraid to admit, like how much pressure he faced due to his political beliefs. She name-dropped Bill Ackman, accusing him of being one of the people who put Charlie's life in danger over his views. According to her, Ackman attempted to bribe Charlie to change his views about Israel. When that didn't work, he allegedly started threatening him, and it got so bad that Charlie was actually considering changing his views just to save his life. Except he never got the chance to. But here's the thing, the fallout didn't stop with Candace, because Charlie Kirk's family dynamic, the one he always bragged about, just shattered in front of everyone. Charlie Kirk always painted his family as untouchable, traditional, strong, but now his own relatives are divided. Reports say Charlie's parents don't believe his wife for a second. They think she knows more than she's saying, and allegedly they've cut her off completely. No contact, no protection, nothing. But on the other side, a few of Charlie's in-laws are defending her, saying she's being scapegoated by the media. That split alone shows the entire Kirk circle is collapsing, and Candace Owens is fueling that fire, because every time the wife tries to speak, Candace claps back harder. And then there's the other layer, the suspect himself, Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old white male, and you'd think the media would go hard on him, right? But nope, the reaction is muted, almost cautious, which only made Candace angrier, because she went live again, and this time she asked people to demand answers. She even went as far as talking to Tyler Robinson's ex-boyfriend just to have a better understanding of what was really going on. That rant got clipped and spread everywhere, and people started asking, why is coverage softer? Why is the focus suddenly shifting to Charlie's wife instead of the shooter? Which brings us to the real fallout. A movement of people who don't even like Candace Owens, now saying she might be right this time. And here's the thing, Candace hasn't deleted a single word. She's standing by it, which means in her mind, this isn't theory, it's truth. And that's where the story ends, for now. Because we're all waiting to see if Candace's rage is about to expose the biggest betrayal in conservative politics, or if it's going to destroy what's left of Charlie Kirk's legacy.